Welcome to Contrary to Ordinary. Uh, I'm Dr. Kim Kutsch, and today I have a very, very exciting guest that I cannot wait for you to meet. She is just an amazing individual, Dr. Maria Sokolina, and she's in New York. She has a fascinating life story, and I just want to dive right into this. When I think of Contrary to Ordinary, her face comes, right to mind for me as somebody that's truly an extraordinary person. So, Maria, welcome to Contrary to Ordinary.
Thank you very much. That was a super generous introduction. I don't know if your listeners can see me in any way, but I'm all blushed.
Well, I just want to tell you, it's so wonderful to have you here. I really want to dive right in. You've got an amazing life story. So I want to start with your origin. You're originally from Russia. Tell me about life for you. What was growing up like for you?
That's a wonderful question. And I don't know, more I move away from it, years pass by, more I like to dive into that past. And I find it so precious. It's so precious because it's so different from my present life. So growing up in Russia, I'm from St. Petersburg, Russia, and it's really affect my upbringing so much. I'm very poetic. I love literature. I love to write. I love, music, I love any sparks of culture. Whatever I can put it like a salad in my bowl, I love to do it. And that's how, I think and how I build my life. So that's number one. My parents, as a very classical Jewish family. My father was a professor of textile, not so much towards fashion, really nothing towards fashion. He was more like a technology, but I love fashion. And my mom, she was also an economist and an engineer. And they were affected by World War II in a way. I'm Jewish. All the Jewish family was heavily affected by that. And I do have a family history with Holocaust, of course. My father's family was practically all killed in the Holocaust. It's a very different sense of Holocaust after, Soviet Union rather than whatever I meet people after Holocaust in the United States. But we have our history, and that part of the family was in a gas chamber in a small Ukrainian village. And then my father, I'm actually, maybe I can say his survival is a miracle, and my appearance miracle as well, because when he was 4 years old, his grandparents, who perished in the Holocaust, want him to stay with them while his mom, who was a doctor, wants to take him with her on a train through the front, and she feels she doesn't want to get separated with the son, and that's actually saved his life, because if he would stay with the grandparents, I wouldn't be here. So that's part of my story. And then when I was in Russia, all the socialist things, being a pioneer, being a grandchild of Lenin, I all got through this. It was already on a little bit skeptical kind of mood. It was not so patriotic mood that time, but I got through those periods. And then I was in medical school in Russia. So I have two educations. I have a dental education in medical school in Russia. That's why my view on my cases are so different. And then I had a dental school here in NYU.
Yeah, so, for my audience, a lot of people aren't aware of this, but the United States is fairly unique from the standpoint that our dental schools are not part of medical schools, right? They might be on the same campus, but it's in much of the world, dentistry is actually just a specialty of medicine. And so you become a medical doctor and you specialize in dentistry. And then if you're a foreign doctor, emigrating into the United States with a dental degree, you then take a 2-year residency in an American dental school to get your American dental degree and dental license to be able to practice. So you went through that whole process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how long have you been in New York? So at what point in your life did you move to the United States then?
I moved to United States right after I graduated from my first medical school.
Okay.
I was kind of preparing for my dental boards when I was on my last year there. I planned that move. It was not all of a sudden. I got the spur of the moment and I left in Russia. I did the planning, and then
Right.
I took the boards here, one board here in the United States, and my program was 3 years. And I have to admit, what education was very different. That time in Russia, in my education, I got a lot of basic knowledge of medicine, and
Uh-huh.
then very Stone Age dental knowledge. I knew how to make metal crowns.
Uh-huh.
I knew how to take impression using plaster. If your
Wow.
audience is interested, I can share those knowledge. And of course, I knew how to take out teeth. It
Right.
was no perio. Perio
Yeah.
did not exist, almost did not exist at that time in Russia. It's very, very different now. But at that time, when I really enjoyed that school, I really loved that education, and that's very heavily inside of me. But when I realized those cases I have to do now with my hands, my aesthetic personality had rebellion. I really didn't want to do that. I cannot imagine, all of
Uh-huh.
it. I did not like it. So, I had this lucky opportunity and I was able to move.
Yeah. So you've explained to me that you love culture.
Mm-hmm.
You love food, art, literature. We're going to get into
Yeah.
that because I have some great questions on that. Um, were you artistic, or would you describe yourself as a curious person as you were a child growing up?
Oh, I was extremely curious, and I'm very, very curious. And that, I didn't think I ever gonna have that journalistic opportunity, but life turned. I write, and I do have my channel on sleep apnea. But in the same time, I invite very interesting people like you, and I have chance to interview them, and I get a lot of satisfaction from that. But not only on my channel, in real life, if I meet someone or I read about someone, I like to explore. I have a lot of curiosity, thanks God to Wikipedia. I know some people said it's not a good source, but I really can do um, a lot of tracing of my curiosity, I would put it this way, through different internet sources. I like to imagine the whole story of this particular person, of this particular discovery. I really like to dive into different historical periods, into different, even through literature. I want to find out what made this author to write this piece, and then
Right.
I would make myself a tour. Like, I really like Nabokov, so I would go to the place where Nabokov lived, and I would explore exactly what Nabokov. Now we have a show Hamilton in New York for many years. It's true, but I did not find. I tried to watch it several times. But then I realized something I'm missing. So I went to places of Hamilton in New York and I explored them to understand his persona. So now I think I'm really ready for the show. So that type of, that's how I take the culture. I take it a little bit deeper, not on a superficial level. I try to dig deeper and understand the motives.
Yeah. So did you want to be a dentist when you were a kid? Was that when, at what point did you decide that was something you wanted to pursue?
That was kind of a traumatic path. I would put it this way. When I look back, I really like human body always. I like, to see how human body works, this work, that work. But then, being Jewish in Russia, and my parents were not in medicine, but my grandma, who actually saved my father, she was not alive by that time, but she was a doctor, and she has the same name. Maria. So my father brought her lab coat. I look at that lab coat. I really feel I want to be in that field. Then something happened, destiny sometimes have a funny way to send you message. I was on a tour with my class, and maybe I hit myself. So I end up in a Russian hospital, in a hospital in St. Petersburg, Russia. And that was not like any even worse, terrible hospital we can imagine in the United States. It was really bad hospital. And then I imagined myself, okay, now if I want to be a doctor, that's going to be my life. So I'm going to be in that environment. And then my parents said, oh, as a Jewish person, you're never going to get into medical school. We don't have any connections to get you to medical school. So they said, why don't you, your father is a professor. You can have a nice, safe career as a woman. My mom envisioned something else. I'm going to be the musical, like I'm accompanist. So my parents had a different career vision for me. None of it really fit my profile. So I went to engineering school at first, but then quickly left and started pursuing medical school. But regarding dental field, that's how I feel it. I like general medicine, but I always feel what as a doctor, you don't have a control over the situation. As a dentist, you do this and this is yours. Even a simple cavity, you do it as artistic as you can. That's your product. In the medicine now, I'm doing dental sleep medicine. I realize we have a different point of view now. But I feel in that time, I felt what I want to be in control of my product. I want to do not just cavity or not just the root canal. I want to do a little bit more, comprehensive. But even that time, when I was 16, I also want to have my own business. I had some endeavors, even when I was in school, because it was kind of forbidden in Soviet Union that time, but I tried to have my little business, even that time when I was in school, and I really enjoyed that too. So I thought, okay, dentistry would be combination of being in control of my art and being an entrepreneur that way. I did not think that time would I be able to move. But then, when I moved, obviously I want to have my own business that is so available here, like I have opportunity to do it here in the United States.
Yeah. Just listening to your story, we take so much for granted here in the United States, right? And people complain. I watch them complain about, about this country. And yet, like, you're a Jewish woman from Russia who fought incredible odds. Well, let's go back to the Holocaust. Incredible odds that you're even here, right?
So
And
lucky.
when you stop and think about that, and then to be growing up as a Jewish woman in Russia, the headwind against you to like go on to be a doctor, and specialize in dentistry, and then come to the United States and go through that whole process to become a dentist here. That takes an incredible amount of, I think, personal strength for you to be able to do that. I'm curious, and I commend you for that, but because I think that suddenly what I'm hearing from you is you got here and there were so many opportunities for you here that you didn't have in Russia, right? And I think that, I think we take those for granted here, to be honest with you, right? We don't stop and think about the hardships that other people are going through or having to go through. And we complain about our situation, right? It's a real, I always think it's like, well, that's a first world problem. Oh, I'm sorry. It's like, I'm sorry they gave you the wrong Starbucks order and it ruined your day. I don't know. Things like that kind of bother me from time to time, but it's so heartwarming hearing your story. One of the questions I have for you is, who were the early mentors in your life? And what kind of lessons or values did you get from them?
That was actually a really trouble point. How I envision it, like I love what success leaves the clue. I really love that phrase, and it means so much, like it put so well in words. But when I moved here, I always envisioned I'm going to meet that mentor. And that mentor gonna lead me by the hand. And I'm gonna do whatever I can to help the mentor as well. I know it has to be reciprocal, relationship. And then I'll be able, because so many things, and people who love to be mentors and who happen to work with people from other countries, I want to tell you, you don't understand how much we don't understand. We don't understand such a simple things, what you don't even expect. And I'll give you, I'm a little bit out of your question, but I'll come back to that for you to have an idea. When I took improv class recently, and in improv class we have to do the scene, what happened on a school bus. I don't know what happened on the school bus. I have no knowledge. I don't know what happened in the school cafeteria. I don't know what happened in a camp. But you don't think it's important in life? It is very important, because that builds bridges. That's how you can relate to people from the first glance. Because if somebody like me make a smart face or just smile, you think maybe she's obnoxious or maybe she's this way or that way, but that's not true. I just don't have a clue. That's going back to your question. Now going back to the mentor. And that's why I explained to your audience, it was very hard for me to find specific mentor. Yes, it's true. I always look for silver lining, and I think, okay, I cannot find one mentor. I'm going to use cumulative knowledge from people who spread the knowledge, even not personally to me. Of course, I live here, and it's just like a stone in a river. You become polished and you learn the clues how to act to be able to work with a mentor like you, for example. When you're looking for mentee, you want to relate to mentee as well.
Right.
So, yes, it's true. I met a lot of wonderful mentors in my life, but I can name one who was really my mentor. His name is Dr. Bert Guster, and I would be so happy if some people in your audience know him. He was my teacher in NYU, and he was the only one, maybe it was my perception, who did not look down on me, who maybe saw me a little bit better than the other people, because for the foreign, I was in a, kind of foreign, foreigner first years. So a lot of teachers, they find it so hard. It would be very harsh for me to say to be human to us, but it would be kind of true, because, they saw people, they smell different. True. They act different. They act very foreign, and they want to be very, official. So Bert Guster was very different. He unfortunately passed away, but I learned a lot of things from him. Not so much even the knowledge towards dentistry, more like a human knowledge, how you should be in United States, how you can be kind and helpful, and even offer your help to some other people. So that he was my mentor. And then I met other people who I can, gaining knowledge on specific topic. It's not so difficult. You take a course and, you respect your mentors, and, some people on Dawson taught me how to do a lot of things. So that was great. I have to compliment. And, I love taking courses, and I always get something really smart there. But main lesson, what I learned later, I wish I did it sooner, but I probably was not able to implement it, what you really have to build your own net. That's very important, to build your network. And you can feel so much more confident or sound or rely on it when you have that network. And for me, yes, I really enjoy that. That's true. But I think it's a major pleasure in life when I meet people like you. For me, it's a precious day.
Wow. Thank you, Maria. And I tell you, I feel like I found a new friend.
I wish we,
Yeah,
you know.
you know. So I look at you and I think you've had a journey full of challenges, right? I mean, you didn't have an easy road. At any step in the journey, you haven't had an easy road. So I want to know, how do you personally deal with challenges? Like, what is it about you? What do you do? How do you find your way through those challenging times?
It's such a broad question, but
Yep.
number one, I really like to look for silver lining. And I don't know if your listeners see me, I'm all in silver. So I really want to I always try to look for silver lining. And very often, even in a worse situation, I find that silver lining. I find the lessons, what I can kind of get out of it. It's very hard on the first moment when I into the lesson, but maybe a little bit later I can appreciate the lesson. I realize what is just life is a challenge. And if you get a happy moment, like that euphoric moment of flow or nothing bad all of a sudden not happening at this particular moment. So like I want to stretch the moment as far as I can.
So you are I'm looking at you thinking, like, what I see here, Maria, is you're an optimistic, positive person.
I am.
Like, you meet the challenge head on and then go, what positive thing can I take away from here?
Yeah, that's exactly this. I think optimism is very important. Like looking back, that was good. Like I had this terrible day, but during the day I met this person. Oh, and then I go from there. But you've been in the dental field. Our life is really in a dental office. Is a roller coaster? Either it's from the patients or from the employee. So you have to figure out your way to balance. Like that. I want to maybe your listeners to think about. I always feel like a rope walker. People who walk the rope.
Right.
So I have to dance to walk my rope.
Right. And then stay in balance and dance.
Stay in balance in the end. Stay in balance to get in balance to my bed. And wake up next morning ready for the new rope trip.
So, Maria, let me ask you this. So I met you because you were writing an article for Forbes magazine.
Yes.
So here's this little Jewish girl from Russia who became a doctor, who moved to the United States, who became a dentist here. And now we're going to get into some of your experiences and qualifications because they're remarkable. And you end up writing articles for like Forbes magazine. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, that always happened by miracles. I believe in miracles. So that's part of Jewish faith, right? But this actually was a steps. So I find, we start from foundation. I find very unfair, but as a dentist, I see a lot of signs for, general health, dental sleep medicine in particular. What I can really help my patients to navigate their health journey, to make them feel better. But they don't look at me seriously. Not because I'm a, female, but I'm a dentist. I'm a dentist. What dentist would know? I recently, I love that show, Little Shop of Horror. And Orvan Scarvelli was a dentist. I'll be a dentist. That's what I'm going to do. So, more or less, we all like him.
Yeah.
So at least that's what I get. But that perception I get from my patients, like I would hear 50 times a day, I hate dentists and like that. And on a mood like this. I have to deliver my good intention to the patient. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Do you find that, I'm listening to this and I can personally relate to that because when we first started making the connection between periodontal disease and atherosclerosis and heart disease, right? Um, I was calling physicians and saying, guys, I want to talk to you about this patient that we both treat. And they're like, why are you calling me? Right. And I'm like, well, I'd like to get on the lunch and learn, at the hospital and talk to the local physicians about their patients that may have gum disease and how that may be influencing their outcomes in terms of the patients that they're also treating that have, coronary artery disease. Right. And they were like, what could a dentist possibly teach us? Right. What does that have to do with
Exactly,
dentistry? Right.
exactly.
But I have to, and that was like almost 30 years ago now. Now that is changing, at least in my experience, it's changing somewhat to I think patients' perception when we talk to them about, biofilms and how the microbes in the mouth might impact the rest of your body and put you at risk for heart attacks or strokes and what have you, because it's very important for them to know that. They listen. And I don't think they respected and listened like that 30 years ago. Do you see that changing in your world in New York?
I can only, it's very hard for me to make, generalization. I can only talk about myself. And
Right.
I can, I agree. But somehow the hearing abilities of my medical colleagues towards me improve with time. But
Yeah.
they did not improve for no ground. Yes, what dentists can do with patient health, those wonderful phrases. And, hey, dentist, so I try to put it in a story. Yes, uh, uh, when I start my initiation towards medical community, it was very dull. It was like everybody was deaf, totally deaf towards my scream. We can help, we can help. Then I thought, maybe I don't have enough weight. So I was thinking, what should I do to get that weight? And one of the things, it sounds probably really funny to you being in Oregon, but I live in New Jersey and my practice is in New Jersey. But good doctors, they have a practice in Manhattan. You cannot be, you cannot be a good doctor in New Jersey. Even though, as a physician, I know a lot of wonderful doctors in New Jersey, Connecticut, blah, blah, blah. But good doctors have to be in Manhattan. So I have an office in Manhattan. So that was part of my way. It's so wonderful how people look so carefully for outside features. But it was not enough for me to have my voice. And I realized to have a voice, you have to be in the media. So, it's not, Forbes was not my first magazine where I published my articles. I published a lot of articles in the dental community, in the industry
Right.
magazines, but it was not enough. So I become part of American Association of Healthcare Journalists. And that helped a little bit. I published an ARP. It was better. But, when you do things, when you do, keep doing them and doing them
Right.
repeatedly, opportunity come. So it was
Yeah.
an opportunity what Forbes was looking for contributors. And, I had an interview and I explained exactly what I'm explaining to you, what I have wonderful ideas how dentists can change people's life, but we need to change the perception of people, and they can change the perception of a medical community. I look, a little bit different, like not me convincing the medical doctors what I can help them to take care about their patients, but actually convince the patients what I can help them, what they can convince the doctors. And that equation really have a success.
I really love that, Maria. It's like listening to you say, and I did it over and over and over again. and opportunities come. And I think that stubbornness and persistence bring a lot of opportunities in life, right? You just don't give up. You
No.
just, okay, you knock on the next door. Yep, they said no, but you know, you can go home and with your tail between your legs, or you can knock on the next door. And I think people sometimes ask me, like, how did you end up, like, I never envisioned doing what I'm doing. Like when I went to dental school, I was just going to be a dentist, right? I was going to practice dentistry. I was going to have a great practice and career. I love dentistry, and that's what I was going to do. And then my curiosity took me astray, and I ended up, inventing all these products and building companies and educating and doing all these things. And sometimes people ask me, how did that happen? How did you get there? And it's like, it wasn't by plan. It just seemed like I followed my path and my journey, and I hear that in you, and it really just warms my heart, because I hear you saying, and I just kept doing it, and opportunity comes, and if you just keep at it, you will get that opportunity. And I think that's really important for people to hear. That message is that stay with it. If it's something you're passionate about, don't give up. Just keep moving forward and keep knocking on doors, and keep doing what you're doing to get you toward your goal. And I really I love that story, Maria. I absolutely love that. What looking at your career so far, what would you say is your proudest achievement? What do you feel best about that you've accomplished?
Career-wise, probably, I'm proud. There are several things. I really like how I do my cases. I like to do it that way. I do enjoy my work in the field. It brings me a lot of joy and satisfaction to envision something and then deliver it. And that's not necessarily what I did the whole story by myself. I use help,
Right.
and I have a wonderful team. That's number one. Number two, I really enjoy my team at this time. It took me a very difficult journey to build the team, because people say I was not in a business school, but I don't think business school give you that knowledge. It's only life educate you how to build the team, and luck, of course, but combination of two factors, building the team what you enjoy to see every day. And I always knock on wood, because but that's thing can have a fluidity as well. So that really make me feel good. Yes. Probably those two things career wise. And right now I really enjoy, that's also my career, but a different type of career with writing. I'm writing my book, and just to give my vulnerability, like I wrote 11 chapters, and my editor said to me, you have to just remove them, eliminate them all. They're terrible. Start from the first chapter, rewrite whole story. So that's what I'm doing. What can I say?
Yeah. So, Maria, I want to ask you this question. You mentioned book. So I want to know about the book about Ethiopia.
Yeah.
What is that? What is that all about? Oh, your face just lit up. What is all of that about? And tell me how that happened.
I do, one of the huge advantage what I have here in United States is ability to travel. And for somebody who live behind the iron curtain, I can never have enough of it. I always surprised what a lot of American people don't find that exciting. They always have this opportunity. They find excuses of we're gonna do it when when we retire. I understand that, but the world is just so fascinating. It's a very fascinating place, and I like to learn from the areas, like Ethiopia, for example, things what I could never even imagine exist. So my book, I'm going to talk about my book, and then Ethiopia.
Yeah.
My book is not solely about Ethiopia, but Ethiopia plays significant role in the book because since I'm doing, dental sleep medicine and facial development, I'm very heavily involved with those two areas. I try to tie it up to evolutionary perspective, and I did expedition to Galapagos, and then to indigenous people life, and that's from Ethiopia. Things, what people do not to snore at night at all, and have a
Right.
space for all teeth in the mouth. They never heard about wisdom teeth extraction, for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. I just want to stop you for a second here, Maria, because I'm fascinated by this topic. Uh, and from a personal standpoint, but because I think, Weston Price wrote,
Yeah, yes.
over 100 years ago, wrote this book about how our agrarian diet changed our facial growth and development. And
Mm-hmm.
and I think, and at the time, I mean, I remember when I was in dental school, everybody thought he was just a quack, right? I mean, this guy was out there. And now I look at his, now that we know what we know today, I look at, he was quite part genius that he
Absolutely.
identified that, um, and that, we don't have the diet that we had, and so our skull development and our mouth development and how we chew, which affects how we breathe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how we breathe affects our entire body health. Like
Yep.
inflammation, I know this is one of your areas of expertise, is
Mm-hmm.
inflammation, and how sleep disorders and disordered breathing affect inflammation and total body health.
Yep.
And so I'm totally fascinated by that, as part of my own personal journey as a patient. But I want to know what took you into that arena. What sparked that curiosity for you with your patients?
With my patients, I do see a lot of sleep apnea patients, but because I see a lot of sleep apnea patients, I now identify people in my practice who are dental patients who have trouble convincing that they also have some sort of sleep disorder breathing. But I do see the same pattern over and over. And even, very, very weak muscle development. I'm big on myofunctional therapy, tie this up towards, sleep apnea or dental sleep medicine. I do see function of the tongue. I do see, temporomandibular joint disorder. I also part of that, part of that bouquet. So Weston Price book, just like you mentioned, yes, inspired me a lot, and how he traveled and, his observation. In reading that, especially it was written 100 years ago, but then I found another book, Shut Your Mouth, which was written 200 years ago, and, lawyer traveled through Indian tribes, and
Mm-hmm.
he brought, he observed so much wisdom what it would be nice if we use today. So I look at my travel also as a source of wisdom which was forgotten, but maybe with my book, I hope with my book I can bring it up on the surface. I'll give you like a simple joke. What It's not a joke, it's a real story. In Ethiopia they eat meat. So they eat meat in a very small pieces. They prepare beef.
Right.
And I ordered that meat in a restaurant. And it is small pieces. And I tried to chew it. And I was not able to chew that. Even though I do eat carrots, I eat whole thing, I eat whole apple. I consider myself a good chewer. But no, that meat was too much for me. I have to swallow it all, like half of it, because the cows actually run. They run during the day. They have muscles.
Right.
And I was not able to chew those muscles myself.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fascinating. You know, you mentioned the Galapagos Islands,
Yeah.
and I tell you, I've been so blessed in my life, and I've had the great fortune, Dana and I, to have traveled all over the world. And people will ask me, what was your favorite trip? And I have to tell you, number one, in my book, it's the Galapagos Islands. You get a real sense of evolution on this planet by being there. When when you see the wildlife that absolutely has no fear, right?
Yeah.
Birds land on your shoulder. The iguanas walk across your feet. You can't, they want you to stay 2 meters away from the wildlife. It's impossible because they just land on. They're so curious and stuff. And to me, that was such an eye opener on the changes that have occurred in this planet. And so it was just, for me, it was just, I think, number one of all the travels I've done. Galapagos Islands is number one.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%, but I like how you mentioned the evolution, because actually by traveling from island to island, you can see how heavily evolution or principles of evolution affect, and that's what I bring in my book. You remember probably those black iguana on the same island as not black iguana, and those black iguana can live underwater and hold the breath for 2 hours, and they eat seaweed. And they have long fingers to be able to stay on those, underwater stone, on the rocks. And that was evolution, because they did not find any food on the island with volcanic lava. So the species who were able to adapt. So my question in my book, look at us having 1 medication or 2 medications or 3 medications and not able to breathe through the nose, and have self-destruction with the teeth, grinding, allergy and all of that. How are we adapting? What are we adapting to? What are we gonna transform ourselves to? And that's actually, I built my book as a medical mystery, and that's, I try to uncover a lot of clues, but that's the major clue, kind of to wake people up. Yes, we cannot go and live on Galapagos, I would say, or live in the Stone Age. Yes, we love the comfort of our homes and our technology, but maybe we can change our lifestyle, the things we eat, how we sleep, how we, structure our day to be able to even a little bit get to actually original human origin.
Yeah. When you think of extraordinary people, what kind of traits do you identify? Like when you think of somebody extraordinary, what's the first kind of thing that you go, oh, they are like this or like that? How would you describe an extraordinary person?
That's a very deep question. Thank you very much. Extraordinary person for me, somebody who deeply looking for answers, who have a lot of curiosity, who have a lot of stamina to come to, to continue the fight, not giver upper, and somebody who fascinated by life. And also who value a human connection. Probably those 4 qualities I would put as an extraordinary person.
Yeah. I love the first one, looking for answers. That is just a great description, I think, of when I think of an extraordinary person. It's like they're out there looking for answers. They have questions and they're curious. And the human connection is so important. I totally agree with you, Maria. So what kind of things do you do for fun?
For fun, I really love snow. So snow, I'm crazy about the snow. If I can catch the snow, I always have this opportunity. I love to snowboard. So I do that for fun. And you cannot catch snow all year round. So in the summertime, I really like to bike, and I really like something active. Also, recently, I discovered Broadway for me. Not recently, of course. I live in New York or New Jersey, in a very close proximity to Broadway theater for a while, but I didn't understand the meaning of that musical theater. But now it's actually essence of United States culture. So I love that. I love theater in general. I think when somebody able with the creativity transport me into somebody else's life, I really appreciate that. I do read a lot. I love reading books, something like that.
Right.
That's a
Right.
great gift. On It can be historic. I'm part of the book club called Book the Writer, and one of the writers, Jean Henf Karelis, she put together author of the book, and everybody read the book, so we discuss. So it's one of the pleasures in my life. I like to do it for fun, and the type of book she bring into club that's so different from fashion to home design to human stories.
Right.
Totally different book. So that's one of the pleasures in life. I really like to spend time with my family. I like, so of course, I like gatherings, that to see them, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I like to explore a lot. I really like to travel. That's what I do for fun.
Oh, I see that. What do you think the secret to happiness is in life?
The secret to happiness, very like I'm gonna give you common answer, and I'm gonna give you my answer.
Okay.
Be present. I would say to be present, to actually, really look around and try to find something interesting, something was gonna catch your attention. I think that's, but my own answer, always looking for something new. Something new, and it can be, it doesn't have to be anything extravagant. It can be some, even trip to American supermarket, can
Right.
be to some authentic things, can be. We do have, you don't have to travel. You can just, travel to, to the store, and
Right.
then you will find either the spicy, the herb, or the vegetable, or the fruit, but you never try, and you have that opportunity. So, like if you're looking for little spark, that's the great spark. Or finding the person finding the person you love. That's very important. But what fit to the vibration you have on that specific day, and maybe make that phone call or connect in some way to that person. That's happiness.
Yeah. It's interesting. You've traveled quite a bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you grew up in Russia. So you have a different perspective than I think, the average American has that hasn't had those experiences. But I mean, one of the things, like you talked about the supermarket,
Mm-hmm.
and I traveled, oh gosh, even started traveling to Africa 40 years ago. And going into the supermarkets there, it was just such an interesting experience, the
Mm-hmm.
lack of things that they had, right? And I thought if any of them could ever walk into an American
Oh,
supermarket, they would be angry, right? That we had these kind of resources available to us year round and didn't share them, right? Because it's like they have learned to make do with so little, and yet they're happy, right? Which
true.
also,
True
which all,
story. True
yeah,
story.
yeah, which means that having all those things doesn't that's not the key to happiness, right?
No,
Because you,
no.
yeah. So I've got a couple of more questions, Maria. This has been absolutely fascinating for me, and I know for my audience. So, what personal goals do you have for yourself for the next 10 years?
Uh, you know, that's a very probably tough question. Right now, the only personal goal I can think about would be to finish my book and to publish my book, and then
Hmm.
to write three more.
And write three more.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I have, like, they're kind of in my head,
I get
but
that.
I cannot, I want to, you know, this book, I hope, gonna really help people. So that's really a journey.
Uh huh.
I want to,
I can't wait to read your book.
oh, thank
I
you.
cannot wait to read it.
I'm gonna
Um,
work hard to make it entertaining.
I don't think you're going to have a problem with that. Um,
And, just on that topic, I just want to finish that. I'm so sorry to interrupt you. From that particular book, because not so much, and maybe it sounds very futuristic or not real, but I don't think so. I did not find much on a Broadway or even in the theater on a sleep apnea. And at the same time, I find what maybe 50% of us, or maybe oral surgeons think 100% of us, but real statistic is quarter of us have a sleep apnea. I'm thinking maybe the Broadway show on that topic would be a really good opening for the conversation.
yeah,
So I
absolutely.
have that idea in my head, and if you ask it like a big goal, so that's the big goal.
I see you doing that. I so see you accomplishing that. What advice would you give to a young, what do you think the challenges are for young dentists today coming out of dental school? And what kind of advice, I mean, would you give them, um, to help them, on their journey in their career?
This I'm gonna start with the story from far away. Like I thought when I got out of my dental school and I was not able to find a mentor, that's only me. But truth is, most of the people have a lot of troubles finding the first job will satisfy them. So
Hmm.
if you have a first job and you don't feel happy, you don't feel what this job actually something what you envisioned before, don't give up.
Uh-huh.
You have to still have your vision. You have to learn. You have to find the area of interest. And now it's so much easier than I finished the dental school. You have a lot of podcasts. So you can find those mentors using the social media. And you still try to find your groove, something what you like. And eventually you'll be able to practice in the way you envision. That's number one. Number two, a lot of jealousy, or like, we are competitive people. We like to see who is doing what, and they can really ruin your days. So my advice, if you're ambitious and you think you can do better than you're presently doing, start something on your own. Start something small. I understand what young dentists now, they have a lot of loans, and it's very difficult to really feel like they envision someone, they want to be like someone, and that someone has 5 clinics and it's all state of art equipment, and they just can't imagine how they're gonna afford all of that. You don't have to. You start something small, and then every day you gain that experience to be able to get exactly at that point. So I think for young dentists, it's very important to understand, if you have financial ability to build something big or you don't, you you know it's not it doesn't matter, it's important, but it's not the end of the picture. You have to have your vision and just building the steps towards that vision without spending a lot of negative emotion on looking at your peers. Don't do that.
That's great. That is great advice. Who inspires you at the moment? Like, is there anybody you can think of that inspires you the most?
Mm, that, probably I have to think about each particular area. Like in your
Yeah.
area, you inspire me. I meet a lot of people. I meet people every week. And people who I invite on my interview, they usually are inspiring to me in this area or that area. I want to
Uh-huh.
learn from them. And there are a lot of wonderful authors I meet almost every week on my book club. So they inspire me. Like, to name you one particular person, I can say what James Nestor with his book Breath inspired me, because
Mm.
he brought the awareness of something I want to bring up. I have a great mentor in New York, Dr. Chase, who helped me, who showed me his way of building dental sleep medicine practice. He inspired me. So, you asked me that question about mentor, and it was very hard to name one specific mentor or what I learned. Now, because life is so multi-layer thing, I find mentor on this layer, on that layer, that layer, that layer, and I try to learn from them. And now I want to share it with my audience as well. So I invite them for the interview and I ask them the questions.
Oh, that's awesome. So, Maria, we're wrapping up here. Anything you want to add to this conversation today? I've asked you, I always ask the tough questions, the big life kind of questions.
I love it.
But what, anything you'd like to add to our conversation before we close?
First of all, I think it's so wonderful what you doing this podcast, trying to find routes to roots. That's, I put it this way. You're trying to find routes to roots to really uncover what's behind this particular person on the screen. And I admire that. And number two, if any of your audience want, find what my passion towards dental sleep medicine, evolution, facial development, and kind of like a modern world we live. I'm trying to find out how to live better and healthier. I would really appreciate if you follow me on Instagram, Dr. Maria Sokolina, or you become part of my Facebook group, Sleep Apnea Breathing Snoring Help. And I can learn about your victories and your challenges, as well as, other members of my community. And I share a lot of information about Ethiopia or other lessons I learned from my travel on my YouTube channel, which has the same name, Sleep Apnea Breathing Snoring Help. And I would be so thankful what you're going to read my book.
Yep. Oh, I can't wait, Maria. So thank you so much for being with us today. You are an inspiration, and you are like a bright star in the sky. And I have so much enjoyed spending time with you, Maria. So thank you so much.
Me too.
And
thank you.
You're very welcome. And if you do one thing today, let it be extraordinary.